Joining us now, though, is Dave Brat, former congressman, District 7 in Virginia. He is now the dean of the business school at Liberty University. Dave, great to have you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, John. Congratulations on your newspaper.
You like it?
Yeah, I think it's great. Much needed.
TheVirginiaStar.com. Go to TheVirginiaStar.com. Dave, if we had that when you were running for Congress, you would have won, I bet.
It'd be good to get the word out. I know. It's amazing. I'm watching the two conventions as well, and it's just amazing. The Dems blame the virus on Trump. I mean, it's fairly astounding. China sends it. The media won't cover any of it. There's tons of experts coming out now saying that it was constructed in a lab, man-made elements to it. That's a big story. That is the story of our lifetime. If that thing was not from nature and was man-made by the Chinese, that is the story of our lifetime, and the press won't cover it.
They won't cover it. What did you think of Donald Trump Jr. last night calling it the CCP virus?
Well, that's what it is, and I'm glad he doesn't call it the China virus. He's right on. It's the CCP. We want to bring freedom to the Chinese people. They're being repressed by the Communist Party, the CCP, and so we want to topple that regime. And then hopefully they start behaving like every other nation. We made friends with our arch enemies, right? The Germans and the Japanese after World War II. Now we all got rich together. We're good friends.
All right, Dave, I want to get your comments on some of what President Trump said yesterday. So I'm going to run a few clips, and I want to get your comments on them. And let's start. Carol, let's start with Cut 5. Here's President Trump in Charlotte. He's saying next year we're going to have one of the best years economically. Everyone knows Dave has a PhD in economics. He taught economics for 20 years, I think, Dave, a long time, right?
Yep.
At Randy Mack and others. And so let's get Dave's take here. Cut 5.
As you know, prior to the plague coming in from China, we did numbers the likes of which have never been seen. Our employment numbers, every number, stock market. Now you look at it today, the stock market is just about set to break the all-time record. Your 401ks, all of the things that we're doing, and that's to me, that's like a leading indicator. Everything's following. The economy's going to come back. Next year, we're going to have one of the best years economically and in other ways that we've ever had before.
What are your thoughts, Dave Brat?
Well, I think it's possible, but it's contingent on ending what's called the madness of crowds. Right now, you have the left being manipulated by big TV and big technology, and that story's coming out eventually too. But all the violence in the streets, the shops, all the foodies are boarded up downtown Richmond. They're not just boarded up temporarily. They're bankrupt. They're out of business.
They're gone. Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah. So the cool stuff that made Richmond is gone. I was yelling from the rooftops back, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. This country has to unify around the principles that made us great. Mm-hmm. This neo-Marxist thing that's trying to convince everybody that our founders are evil, that rich people are evil, that business people are evil, that people that go to church are evil, it's got to go. If you have that negative mentality in half the population that wants to vote that way, that business is a bad thing morally, you won't grow. And our test scores show that, right, in cross-country comparisons, et cetera. The NAEP score, you can look at it. We're not doing well. And so Trump is laying the groundwork, the foundations there. The unemployment rate was down to 3%. Anyone that wanted a job could get it. But it goes beyond that. We got to get our kids thinking positive again. So we got some heavy lifting.
A lot of it to do, no question about it, Dave. And I'm glad you brought Richmond up because it's so depressing now every day when I have to drive through downtown. And that's how I get to my studio. I go right through. As you know, you've been there. You stay downtown and you have to drive through it. You see everything boarded up. But the other thing is I don't understand, and I just have to keep saying this on the air. I mean, Richmond has an anti-graffiti department, right? And why is the F word still on every single boarded up building in downtown? Why do I have to go by and see that every single day? It makes me sick. I don't know why it's just not cleaned up. You're in Lynchburg now, but I mean, it's just gross. and it just sits there.
Yeah.
They don't do anything about it.
Right. I know. It's the madness of crowds. You still have some of these crew blaming this stuff on right-wingers. I mean, they just making up fiction after fiction. All this stuff is coming from radical, violent groups on the left. And if one right-winger steps out of line, you're immediately put in jail. But you got people standing in front of monuments with guns now across the country. I mean, last night was Wisconsin. It's all over the place, Portland, whatever. And it's the country is just psychologically going through a rough patch. And the left is very good on how they exploit tragedies, which are real. Tragedies do happen. Terrible abuses happen to individuals. But then they're exploited and used to bring about violence. That piece is new. No one in history has ever proposed that kind of thing in the United States of America. It's got to go.
Well, it's like Stoney in Richmond doesn't want to get rid of the graffiti because he doesn't want to upset the people that did the graffiti.
Right.
To the chagrin of everybody else that has to stare at it every single day when they go down there. It's disgusting. I mean, I want to bring my family down there. Is that gross? All right, let's get to I got another economics question. All the money that the Fed is pumping into the economy, they've flooded the zone. Economics 101 teaches us that printing of money has to be based on production. Of course, first it was the gold standard. Richard Nixon got us off that. But then Milton Friedman said that's fine, but the printing of money, M1 policy, has to be tied to GNP, to production. Otherwise, you have too many dollars chasing too few goods, which drives inflation. Is that going to happen?
I don't think so. For the techies, you can go Google the monetary equation, MV equals PQ. So the money's way up on the left side, way up, $7 trillion, right? And that's different than government spending, which is up $3 trillion. But all of that is stimulative. But you got to have a real economy that's ready to go. So if you printed that much money in an economy that was, ready to fly, you'd get massive inflation. But that shows you the weakness. And I mean, when the government shuts down the entire economy by fiat, right, for the first time in Western Civ, shut down every church, every business, everything. You got to do something drastic. And so they did. And so they pumped a ton of liquidity in there just to keep the motor running. It's a sugar high. It's short run. It's not real. It's not real because the economy was shut down, right? You can't have a real economy when it's shut down. And so it's going to take a long time to work out that. The debt is up to World War II levels. It's going to be harder to pay that off because we're a more mature economy that will slow down over time compared to coming out of the war when you had pent-up demand and all that. And so we got some tough times. Everyone's going to have to think positive and get to work.
All right, so Corey in Williamsburg says, it's not going to be inflation. It's going to be deflation. How do you get deflation when you're printing more money? Like, how is that possible?
Well, general depression in the price levels, just lack of demand, I mean, will get you there. And we'll see about that. That's kind of mixed right now. Housing's up. Cars are doing okay. The retail sales
and
just
people
came
have,
out okay.
People got the money. To your point,
Yep.
We have the highest savings rate we've had in I don't know, decades. I was just reading that the other day. We have a huge savings rate. So the reason why there's no inflation is because people are not spending the money. But then you look at segments, auto sales way up, houses.
Yep.
I mean, everybody you talk to that's buying a house says they put it on the market, and within hours they're getting offers. So there's a lot of that. All right, you're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with Dave Brat, former Congressman, 7th District of Virginia. Dave has already endorsed Nick Freitas for that. He goes up against Abigail Spanberger. That's going to be very close. Dave also now the Dean of the Business School at Liberty University. Here is Trump yesterday, Dave, in Charlotte, where I was there, saying China will own our country if Joe Biden wins. I want to get your reaction to this. This is Kara Cut 6.
Decades, so we had the best year we've ever had. But we took in billions from China. We never took in 10 cents from China. Never took in 10 cents. They took China for 25 years, and not only Obama, for 25 years, China was taking in anywhere between 200 billion with a B and $550 billion from the United States. I give them all the credit, number one, for being smart and outfoxing all of the people that stood here. and their representatives. But China, we built China. We helped build. We gave them $300, $400, $500 billion a year. Because before that, and before the World Trade Organization and they getting into it, China was flatlined. It was after that happened. And then they took advantage of us because we didn't have people that were smart enough to see. And by the way, Biden would be the worst of all of them because his son took out $1.5 billion and he gets fees on $1.5 billion, which is millions of dollars a year. Give me a break. China will own our country if this guy gets elected. We can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. So we have a
reaction.
Yeah, well, that's right. China is eating our lunch. We've been sending jobs there for decades. Trump's the first president in 40 years that came out and said so. And it just changed the entire trajectory, taught us a lot of stuff. We're investing in Chinese firms that are making military stuff aimed at us with our congressional retirement accounts and the military retirement accounts. Chinese firms are not audited by the SEC. U.S. firms are audited. Chinese are not due to Biden. Biden let folks out of the U.S. Embassy that had fled from communist China, would have been huge intelligence assets. They sent them back. Hillary in her book said, this will make the Chinese happy. Where are the Democrats on these positions? They won't come out of their basement, right? You cannot find a Democratic congressman or woman. Spammer, I think she was in the CIA. She hadn't said a word on China. I mean, it is just staggering. They're all hiding. They can't say the truth out in public because they'll lose, right? If you admit that China is a problem, and China sent us the virus. And just ask yourself, how are we doing under Democrat House control and Democrat-run cities? All the cities that are under attack right now are all Democrat cities. You think that's a coincidence? Hello, Richmond, wake up. Do the math. Smell the coffee. Every city that's under attack right now is Democrat. All the worst-performing schools in terms of education are run by Democrat unions who are controlling your kids. And so I don't get what's going on with this madness of crowds thing, but it's gripped half the population, and they got to shake it loose for the sake of this country and for the sake of their own kids.
It's a very serious situation, Dave. The Democratic convention went on for basically 5 days, right? I mean, they started talking about it Sunday night. It went on through Thursday, culminating in Joe Biden's speech. How many times was China mentioned there? I
think twice over the 4-day period, but only in passing, not substantively.
Only in passing, right? They never addressed any of the Chinese issues.
No.
None, CCP, Hong Kong, none of it even addressed like it never happened, like it's not there. And the only thing we do know is that Kamala Harris, the vice presidential pick, said on the campaign trail, elect me president, and I will get rid of all the China tariffs the next day. It's my first thing I'll do. I'll get rid of them all. By the time my inauguration speech is over, they'll all be gone, and we're going to go back to free trading with China. That's the only policy that we understand that they have, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. And the big elephant in the room is they're accusing Trump of being responsible for the virus. So just for review, Virus 101, you smash the curve down, right? So you don't get the big normal distribution right in the middle. You smash the curve down. Well, guess what? That distribution has to go somewhere when you smash it down. Where does it go? It goes further to the right out in time, which was a good thing. So some of it comes out later. That was the plan that the left wanted. Right. If you test, it doesn't make the virus go away until you have a vaccine. We don't have a vaccine. And so, I mean, it's just staggering, the logic on the left right now. It's really something.
John Fredericks Radio Network with former Congressman, 7th District, Dave Brat with us. He's now the Dean of the Business School at Liberty University. Dave, give us an assessment right now of the Trump campaign. I mean, you were involved, obviously, in the one in 2016, where he came from behind to win. Where do you think we are right now, Dave?
Yeah, well, the polling is similar to what it was last time, but I'm amazed at one point, which I haven't heard many people make, and that's the entire Republican establishment was against Trump last time when he was down by 10 in the polls with no Republican establishment or political leaders backing him, and he wins. Now he's got 3/4 or more of all Republicans in the House and the Senate fully behind him in public. and the Republican machines, the Virginia, whatever machine we have left, after the establishments ruined the thing. But, that's
it's me, basically.
A footnote. Yeah.
I'm the machine, Dave.
And so,
you're talking to him.
You're the machine. But he's got a ton more behind him now. And so, I in Michigan, in Wisconsin, where the riots breaking out last night, the more the suburbs see that stuff, the more they go, hey, this is the Democrats are bringing us the unpleasantness. Right. The Republicans want to get back to work and back to business and get your kids in school. And there's your choice. So go vote.
Well, it was interesting that we got a couple of Republicans whining and complaining because there was no platform committee. And normally you go to these conventions. I've been to several of them. There's a big fight over different planks and the platform. This time, the delegates that were pro-Trump delegates just adopted the America First platform. It's like, okay, we took the party. It's like the I don't know if you call them rhinos or establishment, but it's basically the Never Trump faction. All right, they want to go back to the old days where you have fights over, Goldman Sachs or something, and it's like we all voted that down. We're like, this is the party of America First. We took it over, and our platform is the president's policies. It's as simple as that. I don't know why that was so tough for people to grasp. But we voted on it. It was overwhelming. It was unanimous. There was only a handful of people that really wanted to go through the platform committee changes. But it shows you the difference in 2020 versus 2016, where the Trump movement was new, nobody really understood it, and it challenged all Republican orthodoxy, Dave.
No, that's right. I mean, the old strategy was you'd make up cool sounding stuff if you're a Republican. Say you're going to balance the budget, et cetera, and shut down the border, and then when you get in office, you're going to and you also promise you're going to repeal Obamacare, and then when you get into office, you violate every promise you just made in the platform. And so that's why Trump got elected. Both parties have been protecting the money for the past 30 years. Big money is running the country. And Trump comes in and says, baloney, I'm going to take care of the middle class and build jobs and get rid of this crony capitalism and lobbyists and all that stuff. So that's why he's getting annihilated, because he's taking on all the money. Right? I took on the money, and I got whacked by my own side. The Republicans came after me. Didn't give me $1 because I actually voted on what I promised, that I would balance the budget, that I would shut the border, and that I would repeal Obamacare, not do a head fake and do some fake out, Obama policy that wasn't real.
Well, Dave, politically you're vindicated. There's no question about it. I mean, you were ahead of this curve when you won in 2014. I remember being there that night at your headquarters. I was the only person on air in the world. So that's how I got on CNN and all this stuff, Dave. You're the reason. Yeah. Because they had to get me on because nobody else was there. And I remember them asking me, how did he win? And I'm like saying, Eric Cantor played footsie with immigration. He's for open borders. All this stuff that Trump is for now. You're the first one saying it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't care about vindication. I just want this country to do good. I love being with the young people in the classroom and at a university setting. So I'd much rather be here anyway. But, I want what's good for the country. That's why I ran in the first place, and it just makes me cry to see what's going on across the country right now. It's really sad.
Well, Dave, thanks for being with us. I always enjoy your perspective and the great dialogue that you and I have been having for a very long time, and your economics background, your insight on China. I have to get back to the Falkirk Center, do my show there the next couple of weeks.
You bet.
Got to do it ASAP. I'm going to reach out to my man, Ryan. He's such a good guy. He really is.
Yep, Ryan helps.
I love that
director
guy.
of the Falkirk Center. He's awesome.
He's such a good guy, and he's so smart. Great hire, Dave. John Fredericks Radio Network. Dave Brat, Dean of the Business School, Liberty University.